Hello and welcome to another chess game. In this video we are going to cover a game of Magnus Carlsen. So the top players have started a new online tournament, the Chessable Masters tournament. And they played 5 rapid games on the first day, and Magnus Carlsen had a really rough day. He didn't play too well, and there were many ups and downs in his games. In this video we are going to cover his, in my opinion, most interesting game against Daniil Dubov. Daniil Dubov is a young Russian guy who actually just won one of the other online tournaments. I also did a video about that, so you can check it out. So let's start with the game. So Magnus Carlsen played d4. Dubov Daniil played knight f6. And then Carlsen came with knight f3. And now Dubov played c6, which seems like a strange move. The idea is that white, or Carlsen more precisely, likes playing the so-called London system with putting his bishop to f4 early, and in that case Dubov could react with queen b6, using that the bishop has already left his position and his b2 pawn could be weak. So this is the reason for this move order, in my opinion. Now white plays h3, black plays d6, and nevertheless Carlsen plays his bishop f4 move, but a move later. Now Dubov played knight d7, white plays e3, black plays g6, bishop e2, so now players are playing more normal moves, bishop g7, castle, and castle. And now white plays c4, occupying the center. The position starts to look quite normal. However, this bishop on f4 looks a bit strange, at least to my eyes. And my problem is with this setup is that black often likes to play e5 in these positions, and actually e5 now hits also the bishop. So this seems like a bit strange choice from Carlsen, and I don't really think he has a reasonable claim for advantage. Now Dubov plays knight e4, and Carlsen plays queen c2, attacking this knight. And now already, now immediately comes this breaking move with e5, even though the knight was hanging. And so this e5 actually hits this bishop. So that's why this bishop, as I mentioned before, seems like a strangely placed piece. So the point behind e5 is that if white takes an e4, now black can play knight f6, an in-between move, attacking this queen, and when the white queen retreats, black can take on f4. And white's problem is that after e takes f4, now black can play knight h5, almost finishing the development, attacking this pawn, which is actually quite hard to defend. If white plays g3, then this pawn would be hanging, so the bishop could take it. Otherwise black can just develop further, play queen f6, bishop h6, attacking the pawn, and black has a really nice play. So for exactly this reason, to e5, Carlsen didn't take the knight but just moved the bishop. But now white just lost a tempo, or black just won a tempo with this e5 attacking the bishop. Now black plays knight g5. Carlsen develops with knight bd2. They exchange a pair of knights on f3 and rook e8, and normal move, developing, protecting the e5 pawn. Rook fd1, queen e7. So it's a developing move, but also already looks at the e file, hinting towards some e takes d4 and some pressure on this a2 bishop. But Carlsen disregards this whole thing and plays rook ac1. And now black takes on d4. So normal way would be that black just takes with the knight and then the game develops. This bishop now has some sort of play because his d6 pawn is under some attack. And well, most likely black would play something like knight e5 and then finish developing. And in my opinion, white doesn't have a strong claim for the advantage. However, Carlsen was in an adventurous mood, even though this was already, I believe, game 4 of these 5 games they played. And Carlsen didn't really have a great score. Maybe he was on +1, so 1-1 and 2 draws, but the quality of the games were really bad. He already won a game against the second West Indian player, or used to be second West Indian player, Hari Krishna. So he won that game even though he just made a super bad blunder, and he basically just blundered a piece in one, but his opponent didn't see it, so he was super lucky. And also in his other games, Carlsen was just really bad. I mean, to his own standards, of course. And in this position, he decided to play e takes d4, which seems like just blundering the e2 bishop. But of course, Carlsen, even though it is his bad day, he didn't just blunder a bishop. So I suggest that you stop the video at this point and try to figure out the best continuation for black. It's actually there is some trick in it, so you should probably take your time. Yeah, so what's Carlsen's trick? So Carlsen's trick is that if black just takes on e2, there is rook e1. Oh, and again an intermediate move, hitting this rook. And if queen takes on c2, then white can take on e8 with a check, and black plays knight f8, for example, and the rook takes back the queen just now. And if you look at the board, white actually won in exchange. So that was Carlsen's trick. However, it was not a good trick, because black has an intermediate move on its own as well, playing bishop h6. And the idea is that now black just hits this rook, and the rook actually cannot move, because if you place the next rook b1, then black now can finally take the bishop. And the trick before with rook e1 doesn't work because the queen is now unprotected, and black just wins the queen. So basically that's the combination, bishop h6, and Carlsen just blundered this. And now in this position there is nothing better Carlsen can do than saving his bishop and giving up the exchange on c1. So he played bishop d3, and Dubov just took his rook. So now black is up on exchange. However, this is still not an entirely clear position, so white just takes back on c1. And yeah, so there will be some sort of weak squares around the black king, and also black is behind development, so it's still not entirely clear. However, black actually doesn't continue the game very well. So a good continuation at this point would be either d5, in my opinion, or probably knight b6 to develop and put some pressure on the c4 pawn. And in both cases, the idea is that black needs to act quickly, because if white manages to coordinate his pieces, especially against the black king, so putting the bishop somewhere on this diagonal, then putting the rook on the a file, maybe organizing some attack against the d6 pawn, then white can build up some counterplay. And also from a psychological point of view, when your opponent just blundered a piece or blundered some easy tactical motives, he's sort of as like somebody who is doing boxing, so and then just got hit and was on the ground. So you should really force the issue and go on and try to force your opponent to make even more mistakes. So that's why black's subsequent moves are not particularly of great sense. So I played queen f6, which is on its own is not a bad move. However, the whole plan doesn't make doesn't go in the right direction, to be honest. So now Carlsen goes bishop f4. The bishop is finally, and it's right place now, can go to g5 or can go to h6, and yeah, black is still undeveloped. And now comes actually a bad move from Dubov, knight f8. So I would like to play knight a6 and develop his pieces. However, Carlsen can easily stop him from doing so. So now he plays bishop g5, attacking the queen. Dubov decided to go all the way back to h8, because on g7 it could be attacked again. But you can see if your plan was to put your queen on h8, it just doesn't smell good. And Carlsen plays a good move, d5. And the idea is that this d pawn is going to take away the e6 square from the knight, and now black's pieces are just a bit too crowded on the back rank. So this position, even the computer says that Carlsen has really great counterplay. So now comes c takes d5. Actually, if you have rooks, it makes sense to try to open some files for your rooks. So c takes d5 makes sense. But at the same time, you're undeveloped. So yeah, so it also helps white a bit. C takes d5, comes back, knight d7, and now comes that you developed that you open the position. The white bishop can go to b5, and this is a very unpleasant plinth for black. And also white queen already looks towards entering the black camp. Well, Dubov didn't see anything better than playing queen g7. Maybe trying to bring his queen back at some point. Bishop h6, that's another good move. And queen f6. And at this position, white had a very clear way to go forward with queen c7, just putting the queen on c7 as I mentioned, and black has quite some difficulties. So the game could have been like queen c7, then black queen goes back to d8 to protect the pieces on the queen side and this d7 knight, and now white can just win a pawn with queen takes d6. And in this position, Carlsen is doing really well. However, Carlsen, as I told you, was not in a. He was in an adventurous mood, to say so, but also like not the right form for it, to put it politely. And he played rook d4. So the idea is to bring this rook on the 4th rank and to put it over to f4, but white doesn't really have the all the pieces to launch a great attack against the black king. So this rook d4 is not the best move. And in this position, black plays a6, hitting this bishop. Now white plays rook f4, an in-between move. And black plays queen e7. And now if white just moves the bishop somewhere, then the knight will be unpinned. So say bishop f1, the knight is unpinned, and could play something like knight e5. And black is just, well, black is up on exchange, even though it's still not entirely clear. So for this reason, Carlsen decided to play bishop takes d7, bishop takes d7, and bishop g5. So now white again hits this queen, and his idea is to organize his counterplay on dark squares. So there could be queen c3 coming, and these squares are really weak. So this is Carlsen's plan to try to attack now the black king. And for that reason, Dubov played a very reasonable move, which is more or less a draw offer as well. Rook a c8. So now the the white queen is also hit. And at this position, I again invite you to stop the video and think what would be the best continuation for Carlsen. So to analyze the position, black is still up on exchange. However, in this position, white can win the exchange back by taking on a c8. So queen takes c8 is possible. And then when black takes back on c8, bishop takes e7, rook takes e7, and white won the exchange back. And it is quite reasonable to assume that the position is equal and would have ended in a draw. However, Carlsen, again, very adventurous mood, and he played a move that that is just, I mean, there is rationale behind it, but just for calculating 10 seconds, you would see that this doesn't make, I mean, it's just not going to work out. He played queen a1. So he put his queen to this edge of the board, and of course the idea is that after b3, the white queen would enter the game again and would control a very important diagonal. However, the like central squares of white now are completely open, and black will just penetrate on those. So this is actually a very bad move, and now again black is doing very well. So Dubov entered with queen e2. White continued with b3, opening the queen, but black is not going to just wait. It comes with rook c2. And now you can see that the black rooks or heavy pieces are just very active, and also this rook on f4 looks strange, and the white pieces are not very well coordinated, and white is just simply done an exchange. So white played bishop h4, and in this position I believe Dubov, also for some respect to Carlsen, did not start to just take his pawns with rook a2, even though this also looks very good for black, but he decided to sort of confine the white queen and played rook b2, which is also a very nice move. So this queen is basically just trapped at this point. The black rook covers this long diagonal, and also black has a plan of just playing queen c2 and winning the queen with rook b1 check. So for this reason Carlsen plays king h2, black goes further with queen c2, and white plays rook c4, and now Dubov forces the exchange of queens with queen b1. And actually he already had to force this, because if he goes just black to queen e2, then white can coordinate and play rook c7, something like bishop c8, queen c1, and all of a sudden white is very well coordinated. This bishop is hanging, the queen is about to go to the black king, and can organize a very dangerous attack. So for exactly this reason, black played queen b1, forcing the exchange of queens, and hoping that the exchange up, so the rook against the knight, will be enough to win the endgame. Now white plays queen takes b1, rook takes b1, and rook c7. Also a double attack. And now black plays bishop f5, and white comes with bishop f6. So even though black is up by an exchange, now the white pieces are relatively active, so black needs some precision. h6, this is a good move. It controls the g5 square and gives some luft around the king. At some point the king can go to h7 as well. And now Carlsen plays knight d2 to reroute his knight to c4 and attack this pawn. However, this also leaves the whole king side unprotected, and if black manages to put both his rooks on the second rank, they could just do huge damage and take basically all the pawns of white. Now black played rook d1, knight c4, and rook takes d5. So black takes a pawn. However, white also takes a pawn with rook takes b7. Now black plays bishop e6. The idea is to play rook f5, and that would hit both this knight and the bishop. And of course, exchanging more and more pieces, that is a favor of black. So now black plays rook a7. Now rook f5 is still not possible, because then the knight would take on d6, the double attack. So rook f5, knight takes d6, and then this rook is hanging, and this rook is hanging. So for that reason, Dubov decided to go to d1. So now this knight is hanging, and Carlsen decided to go to b2 with it. And black comes rook d2, king g3, and another good move with g5 from black. And now it starts to be very clear that black is just dominating. This g5 is a good move, once again making some luft around the king so it can come up. and it also restricts the white king. So at some point the two rooks are going to be able to attack the white king, and the white king has no escape route. Carlsen takes another pawn, but now comes another good move from Dubov, rook c8, to prepare to enter with the other rook on the c file to the second rank of white. And well, at this point Carlsen probably already resigned in his mind, and actually there's not much he can do anymore. He played h4, but the problem is that after g takes h4 he couldn't even take back the pawn, because if bishop takes, then the knight would be hanging, and if the king takes back, then the black rook can just take on f2, and white's position is just about to collapse. Actually, already collapsed. So for this reason, he played king f3, but now comes the other rook, and this pawn is going to fall, and actually white's position just collapsing. Knight a4, rook takes f2, and after king e3, black took the bishop of Carlsen, and finally Carlsen had enough of it and resigned. So this was the fourth game. In the fifth game, Carlsen again played very badly, but he managed to escape with the white pieces against Alexander Grischuk. So he finished the first day with 50% performance, 2.5 points out of 5, which is, I mean, it's a strong tournament, so it would be an acceptable result to everyone except for Magnus Carlsen himself. So this sums up this game. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, you can give it a thumbs up. And I have done other videos about Carlsen's game and Dubov's game previously, so you can also check them out. And if you don't want to miss my next video, you can also just subscribe to my channel. See you next time.